more analysis, let's bring in Mustafa Caner here in Istanbul. He's an assistant professor of Iranian studies at the Middle East Institute of Sakarya University. Mustafa, good to speak to you. So many people in Iran and around the world, especially in the Middle East, are wondering if these are the demonstrations that could bring about real leadership change in the country. But it is difficult to know what's really going on and the sense on the ground when there is no internet access. What's your view of what's happening?
Thank you for having me. As you said, it's really, difficult to assess the situation on the ground. However, we know that there is no organized elite leadership of the opposition in Iran. So what we are seeing right now, protests had started for economic reasons. Economy has been, deteriorating in Iran for the last 10 years. Inflation is above 50%. Unemployment rates are highly alarming. Currency volatility is creating really big problems for the ordinary citizens. However, what we saw that these protests shortly, in a short period of time, drifted away from their original cause. And what we are seeing right now is not protesters on the ground just demanding some economic, solutions, but entire regime slogans are heard throughout the country, but I don't see any realistic prospect for regime change or change of the government right now. From the very beginning, the government of Iran has been trying to make a distinction between the peaceful protesters and the violent rioters. And as the situation on the ground became more violent, this distinction is disappearing, and the Iranian leadership is further securitizing the situation on the ground. And as we heard, more than hundreds of security officials, have been killed in this demonstration. So this is pure violence on the ground right now, and I don't see that it will bring any meaningful political change, because a lot of Iranians are refraining from, engaging in violence. And I think what we are seeing on the ground is professional armed groups engaging in violence, burning down the streets, public and private properties, and the situation is really getting more wild.
Mustafa, but there is that sense from protesters who have come out in their numbers, even if they are pockets of violence, that they do want change in terms of the economy, at least. How do you think the government needs to engage with them? And could it possibly also lead to the government looking at having relations possibly with the United States so that some of those sanctions could be eased? Because part of the economic issue is the fact that there are so many Western sanctions on Iran.
Yeah, good point, because Iran's economic problems cannot be solved overnight. So it needs to be, a long-term reform project. So it needs to, involve a possible dialogue with the United States, because in order to lift the sanctions, you have to be in a direct dialogue with the United States. So as long as the sanctions remain in place, there is no possible way for Iranian economy to recover. So I think, the foreign policy dimension is really important here. But at the same time, what we are seeing is the Pezeshkian government is facing a really difficult challenge between the internal grievances and the possible. When we look at U.S. President Donald Trump's discourses about the protest in Iran, he's openly threatening Iran, and also other officials from the U.S. side. They don't hide their involvement, and the Israeli side also. So there might be a possible foreign intervention in the coming days. It's a huge possibility. So that's these actually possibilities are tying the President Pezeshkian's government right now, and they are facing very difficult position, a challenge in the government, and there is no way that these economic demands could be met in days or weeks. So this is, I think, the hardship that the Iranian government is facing, and mismanagement, corruption, and sanctions. These should be addressed, simultaneously. So it's a very difficult agenda, and I don't see any, prospects in the short term that the government can handle with all these problems. So I think, and also the protests are not now, targeting the economic sphere. It, passed beyond that. They have political demands. They are anti-regime. They are not, willing to, leave the streets only, for economic solutions. They also want some political agendas. They are targeting this political aims. So I think the situation is really complicated.
It certainly is, and the government will have to do something to try to quell that sort of unrest. Mustafa Caner, thank you very much for speaking to us. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
The YP